Junkie Media would like to acknowledge the Gadigal people who for centuries have cared for and nurtured the Redfern area of Sydney, where we've recorded this podcast. It's an honour to work and create every day on unceded Gadigal land here in Redfern, the birthplace of the First Nations civil rights movement in Australia. So I'm going to do, and this is going to be hard with you because I'm not really that used to doing my intros.
So fine.
So let's see how we go with the intro live.
And love it.
I don't need judgment. I need support.
I will.
And acceptance.
Okay, period.
And nodding.
Yeah.
Okay,
like,
cool.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Okay, here we go. Should we start?
Yesterday I was like so happy and ovulating, and then like now I'm depressed and sad.
From optimizing how we sleep to literally everything we do when we're awake, the way we take care of ourselves has become both a daily practice and a cultural phenomenon. Cue for nod. I'm Alice Griffin, and this is Little Things, where we navigate the noise of the self-care economy. This episode, I'm with Bianca Hunt, who you may know as the author of Main Character Energy, or from her incredible work as a TV presenter and media personality with careers spanning sport, travel, fashion, and music journalism. You may have spotted her on I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. And she's also the founder of AGNT BLAK, a groundbreaking talent agency for First Nations people. Bianca has seemingly done it all, and today I'm so excited to be chatting with her on being the main character, the driving force that is ambition, and why her little things are actually the big things. Bianca, how did I do?
Good. Yeah. Yeah. I was like, okay, yeah, I did that. Yeah, I did that.
There's actually a lot more too, because you started working so young.
Even me writing a book, there's still a lot more.
Okay, good. Well, that's what I wanted to know, because I've obviously read your book. And so I don't know, when you listen to an audiobook, do you say that you've read the book, or is it just because I've read your book, but I've listened to you, so I already feel like I know you really well.
Yeah.
And I was just saying before you got here, me and my mum were listening to your book in the car, and my mum was like, exactly, Alice, you need to take Bianca's advice.
You know, really when cute. The mamas are agreeing.
Oh, that's interesting. Did you hear? The raised eyebrow. Yeah, I know. I'm like, calm down. I'm speaking to her tomorrow. Just chill yourself
Relax,
out.
But also at the same time, okay.
Like I wouldn't be surprised if she tries to pop in. Say hello.
Yeah, okay. I'm off. Oh my God, you didn't know you were there. I think the audiobook's really good if you don't know me. Because you can hear how I talk and my, I guess, humor behind stuff. But also, I guess my quirks are what made the book work the way that it was written, because I guess when I was asked to write the book, I was like, wasn't expecting to write a book anytime soon, but
because how old were you when you were asked to write it?
It would have been late 23, so I would have been about 6. When I was asked to do it, I was like, my career's down the drain, I have to go back to a 9 to 5, like all of this sort of stuff, which, don't get me wrong, obviously people do that and it's a very valid thing, but after years of doing that, I just know that it doesn't work for my way and like the way that my brain works, the way that creatively I operate as well. So I think there was a lot of things that were going wrong in my life at that time when I got asked to write the book. So I was like, why would I do this now? Like, why would I write a book about having an amazing career when I'm only seeing kind of like, not necessarily the negative side of it, but like the lows of it. And I was really in that. And when they approached me, like they had like a 40-page document of like why I was the person that they wanted to write this book specifically. So they came to me with the pitch of writing something called Main Character Energy, or within that sort of space.
What is main character energy to you?
Main character energy, I think, can have a lot of negative association to the word, where it's like, oh, you're just like the biggest, brightest, loudest person in the room, and the whole idea isn't to be that. It's about being so secure and sure of yourself when you're walking into spaces that you're not allowing external kind of factors to make you feel a certain way. So it's like, it shouldn't be to the detriment of the people around you when you come into a space and you're like sure of yourself. And I think here, especially with Tall Poppy, there was so many times that I'd walk into rooms where people would just project certain things onto me based off what I looked like, how young I was, being a woman, like all of those factors were all from their side of things. It wasn't because of me. I was like, I have the capability to be here. I would suggest a lot of the time when you're in those spaces, you're meant to be there. And so you've got to back yourself as well. The external people, that's their problem. So you kind of have to push that aside. But if you sit there and you're constantly like, I'm not the right person for this, or I shouldn't get that, or that person was right, then you're just feeding into that. I know who I am and I know what I bring to the table. And if I know that, then I'm comfortable.
Were you always this confident?
No. Like I think when I was little, I was so true to myself and what I liked and what I enjoyed doing and what brought me joy. And over the years, that started getting kind of taught out of me, and whether that was through school, whether that was through peers, external sort of, I've been very lucky to have a very supportive family, so I've never felt that you can't do this from them. But it's once I walked through school doors or went into certain spaces, and I think the creativity was kind of, it was pushed out of me. When I was little, I knew I was meant to be a performer, and that's where I found the most joy, because I sung, I danced, I was a bass player. Like, I did a lot of different art forms. And then as I got older, it just lessened, and I found more people. I think fear comes into it a lot. But yeah, I think that made it really difficult. And then I started performing as an escape from myself, because I was like, oh, everyone's telling me I'm not the right person to do this, or I, don't have the right looks for this, or whatever it is that they were putting on me. So at some point you start to believe that. And so I found it hard to go against the status quo when I was at school, because I'm trying to fit in, because everyone's telling me I'm different. But I always knew that I was never going to fit in with them as much as as long as I straighten my hair or whatever, I'm still not going to fit in. And so it took me to be an adult and to jump into the creative industries to realize that my difference is my reason why I'm successful, I would say. And knowing what I bring has been the biggest kind of turning point for me. So when I started in the industry, in media, I was offered my first role, I had to sit with myself before I accepted, because I was like, you're going to come through a lot of criticism. Yeah. You're probably going to have a lot more racism come your way, sexism, ageism, whatever that looked like. Are you ready for that? Like, I had to be really honest with myself. But I was like, look, if I'm in the industry for a year or the rest of my life, I've just got to make sure that I've made a difference. And so when I did that and I made that promise to myself, that's where I kind of sit with a lot of things. I'm like, if I'm taking on a project or I'm working on something, I'm like, is this making a difference? Am I confident with it? And if I'm doing this, is it for myself, or is this for external validation?
In your book, you kind of speak about how parts of your imposter syndrome is, people projecting onto you versus you kind of being able to trust your inner voice. There was an experience in the book that I found really interesting, and I would love for you to speak about it more. When you applied for the youth parliament program in year 11, could you say more about what happened?
Yeah, it was so funny, because my sister, because she's about 7 years older than me, so there was a lot of things that I guess she did that, whether I was silently following along or like loudly, I was like, oh, like, what's she doing? Like, that looks kind of fun. And she did a few kind of leadership programs when she was a young adult. And I saw this program kind of be promoted, and I applied, and I remember being called into like one of the school offices, and they were like, did you apply for this program? And I was like, yeah, like, did you hear from them? Like, did I get in? Because I think I had to put my school down and stuff like that. They were like, no, we don't know about like if you're in or anything like that, but like, you're just not the sort of person we put up for this program. And I was like, why is that? And they're like, oh, never really explained it, but I knew what they were saying in that, because I wasn't a grade A student. I wasn't, I think I only had 5 subjects in my final 2 years. Like, I was not an academic kid. So I think they might have associated a youth parliament program to being academic, or being, I don't know if it was, I'm political by my existence, but I knew what they were trying to get in it, but they just weren't going to say it fully. And I was like, okay, like, can I leave now? Like, unless you're telling me I'm in the program or not.
Yeah, I just don't get that just baffled me. Why are you trying to police who can get into spaces that, especially when they're spaces that you like, what is it that's threatening to you about this situation?
So yeah, no, I know.
And what do you think that's going to do to a young person?
Yeah. Yeah, they were so interesting the way that they would present stuff, and like it's just internalized racism a lot of the time, and like whether they want to address it or not is another thing. But I always found it interesting because when they said that, and then I walked out, I had gotten the call that afternoon, like what I had written in the book saying that I didn't get in the program. So I was like, oh, okay, like, well, yeah, they were correct. They were right. I am not the right person to be in it. And I mean, it ended up turning around and I got called up as a last minute replacement to come and be a part of the program. And I went into it and I ended up being there for 4 years, becoming the first Indigenous executive of the program. So it's kind of like, yeah, sure, you think that I'm not the right person for this, but like I genuinely made change within that program by actually taking that shot on myself, because I was like, well, they weren't right. I've gotten called up. It doesn't matter if it's a replacement or not. I'm going to go in and I'm going to give it a shot and see what happens.
You were the perfect person to write the main character energy book. You spoke a little bit before about the kind of push and pull of main character energy and how some people can maybe misinterpret or have different interpretations of like what main character energy means and is. And I guess I'm curious, can you main character too hard?
Well, it depends. Like I said I guess in the preface that you can be the main character but not to the detriment of someone else. In terms of main character, I love seeing people living their life to the fullest. And so what I don't love is when people are doing that and then all you see is negative commentary.
Yeah.
It's like, why are we sitting here when that person's living their best life at not to the detriment of you, but because they have the confidence, passion, ability, capability, maybe even like the background to achieve something? Why are you now sitting there and saying that they shouldn't be able to achieve that? And also, I think that's odd.
Yes. Well, and I mean, the answer might be the patriarchy. Like, I feel like women are always going to be kind of pulled and pushed down, especially when they try and celebrate their successes and wins. And I have such an averse kind of response to being like, hey guys, look at this awesome thing I've done, because I'm conscious that it's not going to necessarily be received well. And also maybe I find the concept of main character energy hard to fully emulate, but I'm very inspired by you and I want to do it. I guess what you're not saying is, you're not saying and tell me if I'm wrong, but you're not saying main character energy at the expense of self-awareness. You're saying like self-aware main character energy, I guess. Like, it's like not like there's no room for your narrative to be informed by other people and their kind of like input and criticism or whatever it might be. Yeah. And I think that's the part that can spark conversations, is when people are like, I'm confident no matter what. Like, I'm a fucking baller no matter what. Even if I do something wrong, like that criticism isn't going to stick to me in any way, because
that's detrimental. Like, you actually need to sit there and be like honest with yourself. Like, I think it's also, there's nothing wrong with saying you're the right and best person for a specific thing. Yeah. There's nothing wrong with it. If you get a role.
But it makes me feel like, oh my God, Bianca.
Right?
Yeah. There's something about it that's like makes me, and that's not for anyone else, but just for me, it's like, whoa, intense. Hey.
Yeah. But we're also kind of taught that as well. It's like you have to be humble and grateful. Yeah. You can still be humble and still be the right person among everyone else that could have been selected to get that position. And there's nothing wrong to say that. And I think that's where I sit with a lot of things, because I get asked to do a lot of different things. And I'm the first person to look at it and see a brief or see some sort of pitch and be like, I'm not the right person for that. Thank you for asking. Here's a suggestion for someone else. Or like, if I don't know the suggestion, then I just say thank you for thinking of me. But I know with my whole chest when I take something on that I'm the right person for that thing.
And I think you have to be able to, even if you don't have all the skill set for something, you then also have to, if you don't walk in there with confidence and be like, no, I fucking am great and they're lucky to have me in this context, you're not going to be able to deliver what they actually need from you. Yeah.
But also, like, you think about roles and, like, you know, there's been so many studies about like how women apply for stuff compared to men. And it's like, whenever those doubts come through, it's like, a man would not think like this. Like, I think about sometimes where I will be like, oh, I don't know if I can do that. Like, you know, when people say, oh, I don't know if I can do a podcast, it's like a men can do it.
Yeah.
Like you can do it. I'm not saying
Girl,
that they're
you
not,
can do
you know
it.
what I mean? I'm not saying that they might not be the right person to do it, but there is a lot of mics and a lot of men that should not be doing it. You know what I mean? And it's like that's just a straight fact. Like, I'm like, what? Who gave this to you? Like, sometimes it's like, I wish you didn't have money. You know what I mean?
Men can do it. That's so true.
You know what I
need
mean?
to remember
but they're
that.
not doubting themselves. And I think that was where I was going with the, like, when they're applying for jobs and stuff, women are less likely to apply for a job even if they have like 80%.
Yes.
60 to 80% of
they need to hit every single criteria. Like, who knows how to use Excel spreadsheets?
Relax.
It's okay.
It's fine.
Like, take the job.
But also there's stuff that you can learn on the job.
I know.
And whereas men are more likely to apply for a job that they have no, like, well, not no, but like.
It's like 60% or something,
60%, you know, and it's like, and then
they're
40%.
like, close enough.
And yet they'll get the role.
Yeah.
So it's like, where do you see you're going to lose every opportunity you don't put yourself in for? And if you don't get that opportunity, that's just a redirection. It's okay. You weren't meant to do that. Like, it's okay to be like, I mean, I get rejections all the time with stuff. And I sit there and I'm like, cool, it wasn't meant for me. Like, it's like what Kiki Palmer said. You're like, okay, well, that show won't be as good as it could have been. Oh. You know? And like,
that is so
sometimes you can go into it like that, you know, because sometimes you fully know you were the right person for that role, but there was other factors that made it not be the case.
That's such a mindset shift, and I love hearing you talk about it because I'm like, whoa, okay, lots of work to do.
Same.
It's hard to remember. I feel like sometimes you wake up and you're like, yeah, and then other times you wake up and you're like, no.
Yeah.
It just depends.
But that's like being a woman, you know, in our cycles. Like, I was saying that the other day. I was like, oh my God, I swear yesterday I was like so happy and ovulating. You know what I mean? And then like now I'm depressed and sad. And it's like, oh, makes sense. Like, you know, but we are still our biggest critics. So it's like there's that. But I'm like, I was confident. Literally 2 minutes ago,
I know.
I was putting up pics.
Yeah, you can
I was
turn
happy.
it on.
You know
What happened?
What happened?
I
Now I'm
know.
like, ugh, just watching TV shows.
But I
which,
think
love.
the more you, the more you exercise that like confidence muscle, the easier it is, even if you're in a bad spot, to be able to come back to it because it's just memory. Exactly. You're like, I've done this before, so I can 100% do it again. I'll just be able to turn it on in this setting, and then like we'll break down later.
Exactly. Yeah.
Truly.
Totally.
So I'm going to quote you back to yourself.
Oh,
so
no.
like, there's so many quotes in the book. I'm like, yeah, I literally have them all. Okay. I succeeded, failed, trailblazed, doubted, and everything in between. I'm like, oh, that is just such a nice way of framing like what it's like to strive in a career. And I think your striving started at 16 or something crazy, and did a traineeship at a bank. You also worked at a fast food place, and sometimes you would go from your traineeship at a bank to the fast food place, and then you also were at school. So how, like, that is such a busy, stressful life for a young person. What was that like?
It's so funny because like I look at that era as like, I wish I was more grateful for the stress that I didn't have. Like,
I know.
I look at like, why was I trying to rush? Why was I trying to rush to be an adult? What do you mean?
You were rushing along.
I was just so used to having a full kind of lifestyle, because like I did the 2 jobs, but then I was also doing a lot of dance at school because like 2 of my 5 subjects were dance.
Yeah.
And then I had dance troupe. So like every day in some capacity involved dance, whether it was through school, after school. So you kind of had to like balance the jobs with the dance. And then I didn't really have a social life, so I didn't really care about that.
Which is crazy.
Yeah.
At that stage, because you seem so social.
Yeah.
And so you kind of had to suppress that, I guess, because you
Yeah.
were so busy. So do you think then work was an escape for you?
An element of it, but I think it became more of my purpose. And the one thing as well that I've been unlearning is putting my purpose to my career. And that's very difficult.
I feel you so deeply on that, and I'm so glad you brought that up.
Like,
so where did that start, and why are you trying to unlearn it?
I think it's happened in the last few years because things haven't worked the way that I've wanted them to. And I'm just constantly sitting there being like, you know, why is this not happening? Why is this? Blah, blah, blah. And I speak about it a lot in the book of just the reality of it. Like everyone sees the shiny shit and they don't want to know what it takes to be in that spot. And I think, there's that element, but also because up until the last few years, career has always been the easiest thing in my life. It's always been the most consistent thing in my life. Like I haven't had the love and I haven't had like all of the other things, you know. I mean, the friendships I've always had and I'm very grateful for those friendships. And the thing is, I know I'm not incapable of having solid relationships because I've held them for so long with my friends. But it's like the career has always been the distract to it because I'm like, but I'm busy, girl. So I'm out, I'm live, laugh, loving, I'm catching flights and not feelings, you know what I mean? So it's been a consistent, you know, like,
I heard that in a bit.
right? Yeah, I was like, got to bring it back.
Yeah,
like,
bring
there's
it
some
back,
things
girl.
you got to bring back.
Yeah, that's
you know? But yeah, I think that's where I sit with a lot of it now is I'm like, my purpose genuinely cannot be my career because it has been that for so long. So I'm trying to figure out how to holistically look at my life and how do I bring in things that bring me joy, not just money. And I think obviously being in a capitalist society, you got to make money to be able to live, especially here in Sydney. Like my rent is expensive. And so it's like, but I want this lifestyle. So how do I make it work for me? And how do I find joy in other things that aren't just work?
Have you ever thought about giving up?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we all like we all do question mark.
Okay, yeah.
Like
we're all on the same page with
Okay,
that.
good,
So
good.
in terms of just doing a job that's just not related to who you are,
Yeah.
would you ever consider doing that? Do you think you'll have like a give up era?
I think that it comes up all the time, and I think it's just because times get tough, you know. And
Yeah.
you're just like, oh gosh, like I wish it was easier again. There's a lot that can happen in society, whether it's political or societal, whatever, that can impact the reasons as to why I'm not being booked.
Yeah.
So there's that side of things. The last few years has been more difficult specifically for Black and brown people, especially when they're speaking out about a lot of different things that are going on. And I'm absolutely a part of that. And so when you're the sort of person that isn't going with the status quo, you kind of have to come to the conclusion that it's going to be a little bit more difficult in certain things. But I said that I was like, I'd rather be broke and stand by my values than sell out and be paid. And I wouldn't say selling out would be me going and getting a 9 to 5. That would just be a practical thing.
Yeah.
But I think I would be too limited on my creativity because I've been in a position where I trained myself out of my creative brain and I don't want to go back to that. So I have to kind of commit to this and allow those thoughts to come in, but allow them to like waves, you know, you got to allow them to kind of wash away as well. You can't just let them stay.
For the record, I'm not advocating you give up because I think that would be such a huge loss. So let's definitely not do that.
Yeah,
but I think it is interesting when you're so tied, when your purpose is so tied to your creativity, which is tied to work, which you then make money from, and then you have to engage with different companies who then project things onto you. Like it's a lot for you to kind of navigate and deal with. I want to talk a little bit about Agent Black because I feel like that's a natural extension of like, it sounds like some of the things you're talking about kind of birthed Agent Black in a way, and what that experience was like when you did it. So
I came up with Agent Black off the back of my first year in TV because when I was doing Yokai, it was 2020. Our first ever episode that went to air was the day we went into lockdown. But that year I had people reach out, whether it was brands or some agencies, but the agencies were like influencer agencies and the brands were essentially, a lot of places were being called out for not having Black and brown talent. So
it was peak Black Lives Matter.
Yeah. And it was like, so you didn't see this before because we've been telling you for how long, you know? There's pros into it in the sense of I did love seeing a lot more visibility of people, but at the same time I was like, is this a true and genuine relationship or engagement, or is this just like to show that you quote unquote care? When I was being asked to do a lot of this stuff, I was like, no. I could just feel like I would look at their track record and be like, oh, they haven't worked with people like me before. Like I was asked to do maths. I don't know if I'm legally allowed to say, I don't know. But anyways, that year, and I was like, I'm 23, babe. I'm literally too young for this. You're also going to put me with the complete opposite of what I want. Like I was like, I want a Black man. Like how does that go? And all of my friends, a lot of my friends were First Nations. And I was like, we were all talking about it, all also in the industry. We're like, how is no one repped by an agent. Like we're all established.
You're all
There's
fucking main characters, guys.
Yeah, like I'm just a bit confused, but the same common sort of thing was like the cultural safety wasn't there.
Yeah.
The putting us up for, you know, low rate stuff. Like I knew people who were, you know, had massive platforms on socials, getting paid scraps to be working with these big brands, and the big brands would be capitalizing off the fact that they're a big brand.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, they have a lot of followers and you aren't paying them the same amount as the non-Indigenous people who have the same amount of followers. That was the conversation. We joked it. They were like, you should start an agency. I was like, ha ha ha. And then like literally went home and just built it because I was like, well, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I wasn't working. I knew I was still getting booked for a lot of stuff and still getting a lot of inquiries. But it's like what I said earlier is like there was so many things that I just wasn't the right person for, but I knew the right person for. But the unfortunate reality with the agency was that a lot of the organizations were just taking it for a bit of a run. Expecting me to advise for free, expecting to pay low rates for our talent. And then I made the decision to shut up shop on the agency side of things. It will evolve in some capacity to something else where it actually benefits the First Nations talent. What that looks like, I still am not sure of yet. But in its time, like I think I operated it for about 2 years and we had great talent. We had amazing sort of projects that they were working on, but it was starting to benefit the people that it wasn't meant to benefit. And I think that's where it became difficult. And yeah, me advocating for other First Nations people in an agency capacity was really difficult because one, I was seeing the like racism from the industry firsthand and then advocating and justifying why they were the right person. There's a lot that goes into it. And so I'm glad I don't have to see that side of things.
I think picking things up and then deciding that it doesn't serve you anymore is really powerful. And I think what we understand success to be, that was a successful project for the time that it was continuing. And then it is actually a success to be like, I'm actually going to leave it there for now.
But also sometimes it's okay. Like trial and error is fine.
Yeah.
Failing is fine.
Yeah.
Taking a shot, like you don't have to have everything perfect to give it a go. And I think that's the biggest one is like sometimes you got to look at stuff as like it's really not that deep.
So I want to talk about ambition because I was kind of reflecting on you and your journey and then also just more broadly my thoughts on ambition, but where the fuck that drive has like come from for us. Like why do we strive for these things? So if we go back to like evolutionary times, but evolutionary biologists attribute the origins of this craving to the competitive advantages given to speedy members of a species. In the natural world, it is good to be fast on your feet. You are always either chasing something or being chased. The winner was the person who managed to capture the prey or avoid being it. So that is where they think ambition was born, is like survival.
That's really interesting, but I have a similar sort of thought process in terms of like, I don't know if it's necessarily evolution. It would be in some form, but like I believe in a past life. Like I was a heavily ambitious woman who probably got killed for being ambitious and going against the status quo. And just being like, cool, they're not here anymore because you're a troublemaker. And so
what
I feel
you're
like
telling me is that perhaps you were a witch.
No, I absolutely was a witch.
Like this is the thing.
This is the thing because I sit there and I'm like, you know how like in school you'd learn about like Shakespeare and stuff like that? We did Macbeth and Crucible. And like Crucible, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I absolutely would have been called a witch. I know that I wasn't put here to go with the status quo, and I think it took me a while to figure that out because I'm like, just something's not fitting.
Yeah,
I don't like how stuff is structured. Like I keep speaking out against it.
Not a fan of hierarchy.
No.
So that was the start of ambition.
Yeah,
I was trying to kind of understand where people became and why people are kind of like more suspicious of people who outwardly say that they're ambitious and like why that's associated with ego, greed, all those things. And then especially how those kind of tropes then play out for women particularly. And it was really interesting because people with ambition in Western context, like throughout history, oftentimes would like change the world order, I guess, by like overthrowing XYZ person, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of where the fear of it all started, which I thought was kind of interesting. But then even now, like just how much capitalism has been embraced, the fact that, and that's so associated with like America, Wall Street, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
It's still not, we still hold these very like kind of like rigid views of ambition and negative kind of connotations. Have you experienced any of that firsthand?
Yeah, I think ambition a lot of the time is associated to youth, like being young and ambitious and not being hard done by these things. So you don't have, you haven't seen the barriers, or you haven't seen certain things and you're like, oh, that looks good. Because that's the experience that I had. Like people would look at me and be like, oh, she's ambitious, like, you know, we'll give her a couple of roadblocks so that she realizes like not to be as ambitious. And it's like, I feel like you're ambitious until you've shown elements of success, and then all of a sudden it's like you've got proof of concept. So it's not ambition anymore, it's just you're a successful person.
So ambition to everyone else is until you've proven yourself.
I think so. Like you might come in really heavy and really like, I want to make a change and I want to make a difference, and like you might go into a system to try and like change it or find a way, and then you keep getting knocked, and then people are like, and then you just like, oh, I'm gonna go with it. Or I'm not saying that everyone does that, but there's an element where people or like spaces will keep pushing you into a box, keep pushing you into a space that you're just like, well, why would I even bother? You know, and so that ambition, quote unquote, kind of fades out. So it's, like I think ambition can be as tied to the fact that if you haven't actually done it, but once you've done it, then they can see.
And then once you've done it, it's been so easy and anyone could have
specifically
done it. Yeah.
You know, oh, well, you know, I could have done that in my sleep. Okay, well, why didn't you?
Yeah, why didn't you? Truly.
You know, and also I think the ambition is like talked down upon, and then once the success comes through, people are like, oh, I knew you would always be able to do that. Or like, you know, that's when people start to like celebrate you and stuff. And it's like, but I asked for help like 10 times over and no one wanted to do that because you wanted proof of concept. Yeah. And now that you've got proof of concept, you want to support it. It's the same as like when people, I guess, people will be really excited to like back you on your come up. Then once you get there, they're quick to pull you back down because they think that you can't humble yourself or that you are so out of touch with the world. And don't get me wrong, there's definitely people that do that. And I think, again, that comes back to self-awareness and understanding yourself and everything. But yeah, I find that really interesting. And then once you're able to like deal with as much hate or criticism or whatever, and you've done that, they come back again and they're like, oh, look at you did it.
I did not realize, I think it's really interesting. You were saying earlier how you actively, when you went into media, you actively kind of sat down with yourself and was like, I know that in going after this kind of career path that I will be subject to certain hate and I'll be subject to certain criticism and all of that. And I think maybe that's because you started your career more in hosting and like being front of camera. Yeah. But for me, it's like that's a part of it now, but that wasn't like being a writer and editor. It's more behind the scenes kind of stuff and facilitating other people's voices. But then when you get to a certain point, like I never sat down and said to myself, by the way, if you do this, there will be like you're in a more visible role. There are going to be people who have opinions on stuff. And I think it's been much harder for me to manage just because I never fully understood that I was just so excited. Yeah. Like I was just so excited by the different things, opportunities and things. So I didn't really think it through. And then trying to retroactively put the genie back in the bottle, it's like you can't really do that. So it's like, oh, okay, this is what I'm doing now. And this is like how it's going to be. But also realizing later on, like, and even in your book that really resonated with me is like, that's an experience that a lot of people have. And it's not like, whoa, poor me. I think like, obviously if you put yourself out there, you can expect people to have opinions on what you say and how you engage. But it's also just a factor that you do need to be kind of resilient for. And if you didn't think it through beforehand, and it's also just a natural part of being in these positions. And I kind of just wish, I don't really have a point beyond saying like, I wish I knew that first. I wish I did a you and kind of sat there with myself and was like, okay, are you making an active choice or is this just going to be like a vague byproduct of what you do? Because then it's going to be much harder for you to like unpack whatever trauma comes with that.
Totally. And it's a big reason as to why there's a chapter in the book saying fame, I'm going to live forever or something like that. Like,
I love that.
You know, and it was talking to it. It's like,
Yeah.
do I actually want this? If you genuinely see yourself in that position, how are you getting there? But also, what are you doing in order to make yourself a safety net around yourself? Mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, all of those things. And yeah, because I think people like the idea of fame, but not necessarily what comes with fame. Are you going to be someone that's just like wants to be famous because you look pretty, or is it because you want to have something to say? Like, where are we at? Or is it because you're pretty and you have something to say? Because we love nuance, because apparently women can't have that. No, because like I think about like some of the first criticism that came when I was on Yokai specifically, like you'd see the live feed and like there was men just like commenting being like, the only reason she got this is because what's in between her legs. And I'm like,
whoa,
you know, like that. I'm like, okay, you know. And then another one was like, she only got this because she's pretty. And I'm like, oh, like that's crazy.
like
Me? Stop. A black woman in this country has been handed something because she's pretty. That's, you know, just none of this stuff.
You are pretty, but that's an aside and not a...
No, but it's a thing that I have had to feel comfortable with and acknowledge it within myself, because I've been told the complete opposite from society. So when someone says that to me, I'm like, the irony in you even saying this is ridiculous, because I was like, at no point have I ever gotten a job because I am the beauty standards, specifically in this country. I'm like, we are the original beauty standards for sure, you know, and we should be looked at more for not only our beauty, but our intelligence, strength, and just like being an all-encompassing person would be lovely. There's an element of when you come into these spaces of being vulnerable to industry. So being the young, ambitious person who is happy to take up a job, a role, an opportunity, you will do that at certain costs, right? So like my first ever hosting job, I didn't get paid. I wanted it, so I did it. Would I suggest that for people? No.
And I do think that's changing. Like
I would hope it is.
I don't know, but like I feel as though conversations around what it means to be able to not take a job and not get paid for it, like and the privilege around that, but also just that people deserve to be what is considered work, and people deserve to be compensated.
It's a very vulnerable position to be in when you don't know necessarily what you're signing up for because you want that chance.
And did you have anyone in your family who was from that, like who had been in media before? So it's like you're actually you don't actually know who to turn to, who will give you genuine, real advice on how to navigate this.
Exactly. And so when you are set up like that, and now I think in hindsight is a big reason as to why I'm in this space and why I was so happy writing a book like Main Character Energy, because there is a lot of things that I talk about in it that I have not seen from other media people in this country talk about. If we want more people in this industry and we want to sustain this industry, it cannot continue to go the way that it has gone, and we can't keep taking advantage of young people and the vulnerability of wanting that shot. It can be really scary, and the commentary that can come with being in a public facing position is a lot. And it shouldn't be taken like lightly, but like a lot of the time I'm sitting, it's not real. It's not real. So like, how do you distinguish whose opinion you care about and whose you don't? Because like there's a lot of people that will throw stuff from glass, like what are they called? Glass walls or whatever they're called.
Glass houses.
Yeah.
So I want to know, because obviously we have kind of actually come out of a very ambitious girl boss-esque era. And of like the 2010s where anything was possible, Sheryl Sandberg, lean in. And if you lean in hard enough, no matter what happens, you'll get to where you want to go.
Yeah.
Now in 2025, we know that that's not reality. We know that there's many different systemic challenges that stop people from being able to achieve their goals. Like if you can dream it, you probably can't do it, is my kind of view in some ways, which is nice and negative.
Bit of a pessimist.
A bit of a cynical girl.
We get it. She's practical. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you can, but I think just that kind of like very simplistic narrative only works within certain contexts. And I think now in 2025 we can have a more nuanced discussion about like what ambition means. But then how do we marry, as two, I would say, ambitious women, how do we marry up the reality of that we are kind of entrapped by the capitalist machine and we can only influence so much with our ambition of wanting to tell cool stories, wanting to take up space, wanting to be a voice? Like how do those things marry up for you?
I mean, it's so interesting because I think over the last few years tried to silence or like limit those voices as much as possible. It's also adapting your goalposts to meet where you are in your life as well. So it's like, you know, I write it very early in the book where I thought at 25, like I would have a full family, kids, you know, house, all of that sort of stuff. And like, you know, me now in my last year of my 20s, that's not the case. You know, the girl's looking very different. But the goalposts have obviously shifted because everything costs so much more money. Like, and my biggest thing was like when I went to get like a coffee and I was like, why did I just pay $8 for a coffee?
Yeah.
That for a small coffee. I'm like, stuff has changed and you're expecting us to go and buy houses?
That's the thing. It's like you can't, I guess the dream of like, if you work hard, you can have a house, you can do X, Y, Z. It's just not actually realistic. So I guess people are now being like, well, if I am going to work hard and I'm not able to achieve all these things, like that I think would lead to a life that I may find like comfortable in a traditional sense and what I've been told I should go after. Okay, well, I'm not going to do that then, obviously. Like, and I'm going to pay fucking $8 for a coffee.
Yeah,
and
I'd rather have
this.
have
treats.
I know, exactly. I'm the sort of person now where it's like, and there's not a strong correlation between working hard and achieving.
Yes.
So it's like
that's the part that we never knew.
Specifically.
Growing up. We were never told.
No. I think my biggest one, and I think that's where I guess a suggestion for other people is to look at like where those kind of ideologies come from and stem from, like when you were younger, and what that looks like now, because it's just not as practical to be sitting there and thinking about forecasting for the future of certain things. Like I personally would rather live for the now than my future me, and I think there was a lot more future forecasting that was happening with previous generations.
Yeah. I think it's also like, why do you want to achieve things? Do you want to achieve things for like shiny recognition, or what is actually motivating you? With some of these conversations, some people are going kind of the opposite way.
Yeah.
Have you heard about soft life?
Sort of, yes. Yeah.
Okay, let me read you the definition.
Okay.
And I'm really keen for your thoughts. Embracing a lifestyle focused on ease and relaxation. It's all about saying no to the hustle culture and opting for a slower, more intentional and stress-free way of living, where the priority is no longer about working yourself to the bone to be a #girl boss or leaning into the corporate male world.
Okay.
You're no longer pushing until you have it all.
Okay.
Thoughts?
This is the thing. Like, I think there's definitely elements of it that I think people should embody in a soft life sort of energy. But at the same time, I think you have to work for a soft life, and it can't just be kind of an automatic thing.
Because it's very much like, let me just run to the cottage that is like a French provincial, beautiful mansion cottage estate. Let me bake my own bread. Let me have all this money to be able to live this kind of soft life.
Yes.
So it's really funny. And like you came to my point before I could, which is like the idea of rejecting capitalism is only possible for people who benefit from capitalism. Yeah.
Yes.
So try.
Yeah. I've started to come into the more of how do I slow down some of my thoughts?
Yeah.
How am I living a bit more of a frolicky sort of life, and that's only really
frolicky sort of life. That is so cute.
We need to frolic more. And
and how am I frolicking in fields?
Like
as part of my soft life strategy
specifically. And I think that's the element that we need to be looking at. Is like how
nature.
How do we bring in things that calm our nervous system down, rather than sitting. I'm like, at the end of the day, you got to make money.
Yeah.
Figure out how you do it. There is a lot of people that have a soft life where they still work a 9 to 5, or like the idea of a soft life, but it's like getting up earlier to like intentionally make your matcha and have your coffee, go to Pilates, you know, have a softer way, dressing more feminine, whatever that looks like, but finding elements that work for you that slows down your nervous system so that when you go into those spaces that are going to be a bit more abrasive and a bit more structured and in the capitalist world of doing, I think that's the difference in a way. I mean, I know I do it. I'm like, oh my God, it's 9:30 a.m. and I'm at Pilates. You know what I mean? As of this week. Like, I've never done Pilates before in my life. But I was like,
welcome.
Oh my God.
It's so much fun.
Right?
Yeah,
I was like, this is great. I'm on a reformer.
Yeah, it's like, it's fun. It makes it feel not like exercise. Yeah.
Because I've been so masculine with my exercise because I've been taught that way. But also, like, I'm a former footy player. I'm used to strength and condition. I'm used to that side of stuff. So when I move into more intentional body movement, that's a way that I've been adapting. Same as going down to the pool or going to the beach or going to nature and just like putting nails on, having like just things that make me feel like I'm just like enjoying life and catching up with friends and doing that sort of stuff, so that when I have to go and do the hard things, it doesn't feel as
But okay, so this whole thing is like life, the idea of a soft life is that the idea that life needs to be hard is something that we've been taught.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? And so like, and I'm like, there's a world in which I totally agree with everything you're saying. But can I just tell you my soft life fantasy? And then you can tell me yours. Yeah. So my soft life fantasy is like living in the Scottish Highlands, lovely, with renting a place. So it doesn't have to be, like, maybe it's a really random location. It's not like an unyoked cabin or something expensive.
Okay, yeah.
I'd love that, but just, you know, being practical. And then working in a bookshop or something. Yeah. Like that to me is like, I feel like that's not wholly, I mean, obviously, you know, flying to Scotland's a bit unattainable, but like moving to the country, working in a bookshop, like, is that an achievable version of soft life? I don't really have much commitment, like, you know, so I don't know.
So like, what's stopping you from doing that?
Off we go right now. No, but but you know
out
what I
of
mean?
curiosity,
like,
what is? Because I think
it's an actual question.
It's a question. Oh, okay. Yeah. Like, what is?
I don't know. I guess like I've never been asked. Funny you ask. Yeah, but I don't know if I don't know if that's what life is meant to be about. Is it never meant to be hard in any capacity? Like, obviously we're going to have suffering in all these different ways outside of a work context, and maybe we had a bit of that in lockdown. Yeah, depending like on where such a place of privilege as well, depending where you were. But the idea of slowing down, I think there is something nice to be taken there, but then it can never, is that a reality?
Yeah, I think there's elements of us being our biggest reason as to why that's not happening as well. So if you think about you wanting that sort of lifestyle of being, you know, in Scotland, bookstore sort of thing. Yeah. The thing that's stopping you is being like, well, I have this amazing job and I'm doing the things that I want to do. And so I want to do this. So I think there's an element where we can make it easier for ourselves and we can go off and do that sort of stuff. And maybe it will be a softer life, but it's the risk that we don't know if it will be the different, like if it will actually be easier or not. That's what we're holding on to, is like, you know, because I think about it all the time.
And also you just don't know, like, I think part of the soft life fantasy is that your problems are all external problems. Yes. And unfortunately, I feel like some of my problems are internal problems. Totally. So I feel like I can't run away. Biggest. It's not going to just, things won't magically get better just with a scenic change.
Exactly.
So soft life is visiting a psychologist.
Specifically. Yeah. And being, again, working on yourself, finding ways to unpack reasons as to why you make certain decisions and, you know.
Can I just show you one soft life video, which I just found was fucking funny? Because
you're like, I'm not meant to be in Scotland, but maybe I am.
Truly. But no, it's just like, it's stupid. It's so dumb. I couldn't even find like good videos on this because I'm like, there's no nuance to this conversation. Well, yeah. And that's what annoys me. But this is peak no nuance. Okay. Soft life.
Okay. Yep.
Maybe just describe what's happening.
Okay, so I'm watching a video of this woman cutting up avocado, putting it on, is that bread and not toast? Wild.
Yeah, I know. I saw that too.
With a view of the ocean, you chose a soft life at the ocean. That's an expensive view, babe. Yeah, no, like that's an expensive view that you don't just get that. It's got a fireplace.
I know. I'm so outside.
But also, like, where did it come from?
Here's the comments. I'm too poor for a soft life.
That part.
Cute. Soft life sounds just like home. How do I afford the soft life? The way my nervous system took a big sigh of relief. What a beautiful life you've built for yourself. I'm like, it's just a view.
It's a view and it's a
spread.
This literally could be them at like a Airbnb or something.
Yeah.
Saying, oh, soft life.
I know. It's so annoying. But anyway, I fall for it. And like all you need to do, not really, but all you need to do is literally put any kind of music on top of a pensive video with an ocean, and it's like, I'm there.
Imagine it would just have like some like dance music over it.
Oh
You're like,
God.
oh.
Imagine if it was like Black Sabbath. Or
you know what I
something.
mean?
So fucking
like,
fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like a pretty view, but we're like, you know, getting rockers in there, you know?
We've been chit-chatting for a while.
Yeah.
And I have not asked you, what's your little thing?
Well, it's very simple, I would say, like, which is, I guess, why it's a little thing, but it becomes a big thing, question mark, is I love playing music.
That's the point.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. It's like, I just love playing music and dancing. So, like, it's been a thing for me for quite a long time. And I think I got really used to music and the association to being productive as a thing, because like when we were little, like Saturday mornings you'd hear like the TV go on and it's music and it's cleaning time, you know. So I've gotten so used to having music and something else happening. So like if I was studying, I'd put music on. If I was cleaning, music. So music's always been a very big staple of mine, and I think that's elements of the fact that I am a former musician and like my dad's a musician, and I've just gotten used to waking up and going to sleep to music. But now having my own apartment and just whatever, there's no real limits to what I get to do. And like I was in the shower earlier because I was like blasting the music as high as I could, but I still couldn't hear it properly, and I was like, I need to go get a shower speaker. So that's probably what I'm going to do.
Oh my God,
after
love
this, so that I
that.
can put it in the shower, because I'm like, I need surround sound.
Yeah.
You know, because I also perform obviously in the shower because the acoustics are way better in there. So, you know, yeah.
You need the full thing.
Yeah.
I feel as though it is actually peak main character energy of you to soundtrack your life the way you do. Do you have a favorite song when you want to become the main character? You want to tap into your main character energy?
It's either When I Grow Up or like Superstar, or like When I Grow Up by the Pussycat Dolls, or like Superstar by Jamelia, which was like my first main character moment.
Bianca, it has been so fun having you on the podcast. Ambition and career stuff I find endlessly fascinating.
Yeah.
And I knew in speaking to you we were going to get fully into it. And it's cool how you have so much outwardly figured out, right? But then for you, it's still like with all of us, like you're still trying to figure out your work identity, your purpose, all these things. It's so fun to hear about it, and endlessly impressed by one, all that you've achieved, but also who you are, which is obviously the much more important part when we have any conversations about this. Really grateful for you in sharing such a long time with us as we talk through everything, and I'm glad to know that you were in fact a witch in a former life.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's not surprising.
No, it actually isn't. Now that I've met you,
you're
I'm
like, oh yeah,
track.
She's got her hat in the back.
Yeah,
just
she's ready.
full alphabet.
Yeah, and I'm with you.
Yeah, totally.
But thank you.
Of course, thank you.
This episode of Little Things was executive produced by Alice Griffin, that's me, and Jana Anderson, and produced by Natasha Lau.